Okay, all right, ladies and gentlemen, we are here and just want to say welcome to each and every one for joining us right here on the first of its kind, the PPID Law Forum for the firm. And we welcome each and every one. What we would love for you to do, if you don't mind, if you can actually invite as many people as you know to join the forum by simply going to eventbrite.com. In another 3 minutes or so, I will be introducing the panel. All right, so eventbrite.com, and they can just type in PPID. All right, that's it, PPID, and you'll be able to actually join the forum here. All right, so what we're going to be doing for the next 2 minutes is just some marketing. Get as many people to join. We're going to be speaking on immigration. We're going to be speaking on personal injury. The prevalence will be on immigration, considering all the changes that has happened where executive actions are concerned by our current president and current administration, Mr. Biden. So we will be talking in depth about that. We do have quite a few of the attorneys that will be touching on that. But before we actually get into all of that, would love for you to actually, just share the link on Facebook. And also, of course, text your friends and let them know. All right. Ali's here. And you were about to say something, Ali? Okay, thought she was about to say something. All right. All right. And Zaina, welcome. How are you?
I'm good, and you?
I am wonderful. We're here getting ready to actually start the show. You are the marketing director of the firm, correct?
Coordinator, yeah.
Okay, not a problem. So we're going to be jumping it off in about a minute or so. Just letting folks know that we're actually live on Facebook, and marketing team is actually shared to quite a few groups, a few timelines to get us up to speed and get us going. So
okay, so it's success so far, right?
Yes. You want to tell folks a little bit about yourself? There's Zaina, as I take a call from Mr. Handler here.
Sure. I'm not sure if there's anybody that doesn't know me in here. Oh, we're 31. Okay. So hi, everyone. Thank you for joining today. It's a pleasure to have you. Sorry, I'm having a call. So we're going to start shortly. Can you just give us a second?
And once again, folks, we're asking you to actually, tell people about the show right now, which is just about underway. We noticed that one of the other attorneys that joined us, Nelson Madrid, is one of the partners of the firm PPID. Someone can reach out to Mr. Handley, was just calling me.
That was Adam.
Yeah, he actually needed, that's one of the attorneys, the case handler. He needed the link, right? Let me guess. He needed the link, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, evidently he didn't get the memo. But before we act, where did
email that to him soon?
Where did let's see. I need to bring Alan K back in. His camera is off, so I'm gonna ask him to start his video.
Okay.
All right, there you go. All right, good. All right, so let's get that back off. All right, so as we wait for Adam Handler to join us, I think he's an integral part of this forum. Let's just do some introductions here as we get to it. All right, once again, folks, we will be live on 93.5 WVIP FM in exactly 2 minutes. This forum is the first for the firm where virtual town hall forums are concerned. The forum is going to be on immigration. It's going to be on personal injury. It will be on other areas of the firm, Pollock, Isaac, and Nasico. We're asking everyone, as we get up to 93.5 FM in another 2 minutes or so, we're asking everyone to actually share. If you're watching this on Facebook, please do share to timelines. Do share to your groups and your pages and so forth. Also, of course, if you know someone who would like to get their immigration questions answered, or they have questions on different areas of law, today's the day. We're going for at least an hour. So just ask them to actually go to eventbrite.com, type in PPID, and then they'll be able to join in right here on this wonderful Zoom session. With that said, Zaina, I'm going to ask you to just introduce your attorneys over on your side as we get into our PPID Law Forum.
Sure. So let me introduce the our award-winning attorneys. I'm going to start with the Immigration Department, Mr. Conrad Pollack, who is the Managing Director and Head of the Immigration Department. Mr. Nelson Madrid, he is also a partner at PPID. Alan is Alan Kay. Mr. Alan Kay is of counsel, Immigration of Counsel. And the attorneys, I have Andrea Shear, who is an associate immigration attorney, Yi Zhao, who is an associate immigration attorney as well. And I guess that will be it for the Immigration Department, right?
Okay. All right. All right. So seeing that, let's jump to Conrad. I want to find out if he has anything to say about this forum and what it is that we're doing here today, seeing that he's the managing partner of the firm. And I'm quite sure he has a lot to say, a whole lot. You know, maybe not as much as Adam Handler, my co-pilot on Cruising with a Case Handler weekdays at 9:30 a.m. on 93.5 on Facebook. But I'm quite sure Conrad has, you know, a bit to say. Conrad, as you unmute your mic, you know, anything you want to say about the forum before we jump into the details of what it is we're doing here today?
Absolutely. Nice to be here. You know, I lost track of time. I just made it just in time. As I was coming and sitting down, I heard my name being announced. Like, whew, just made it. It's wonderful to be here. It's certainly a thrill, and it's nice to be able to get some airtime. You know, in the mornings with the case handler soaking up all that airtime. It's hard to get a word in. You know, so tonight it's nice that the focus is somewhat on immigration in that direction. But anyway, all levity aside, I want to welcome everybody out there to our first. This is the first time we're doing an actual forum for PPID. I mean, we've been on the radio for years. PI, our personal injury department, has been on the radio for years. Immigration, we've been doing it now since March, so it's almost a year, guys. So basically, our immigration department joining on the radio in the mornings on 93.5 and on Facebook started exactly in accordance with when the pandemic hit, basically, when our office shut down. We've been doing the radio program every weekday morning since. And I can't believe it's almost a year already. Really, it's
time flies,
huh? Well, let's hope the next 6 to 8 months fly just as quickly so we can get back to some semblance of normality. Everyone get their vaccines, and we can actually start. Squeeze, you and I were talking before the show, actually pounding the flesh, you know, and shaking hands and like seeing people in live, you know, flesh and blood, as opposed to on Zoom. You know, I'm looking forward to that day again. But along those lines, you know, just one, besides the topic that I'm going to be speaking about tonight, I just want to say there's a reason why we're doing this forum, particularly focusing on immigration tonight. And the reason we chose this particular time. As everyone out there knows, we have a new president, new administration in place for the last few weeks. You know, we waited deliberately until then, once we knew that Biden won the election, which we kind of, everyone here on the program, we all kind of knew back on November 4th that he did win. Since that time, we knew that changes were coming. And again, principal reason why we're doing this now, after we waited deliberately till after the administration took power, was so we knew that there were a lot of changes coming, and we wanted to talk about those changes, and there are still a lot of changes to come. So our focus tonight is going to be particularly on the executive orders that have been issued in the past few weeks by President Biden, but also I just want to throw out my own 2 cents, my own commentary that, you know, and again, Squeeze, we were just talking about this, you know, basically for the last 4 or 5 years, everything that you hear about immigration, whether it's radio, TV, newspapers, it was basically all negative. And that's, of course, coming from one particular source, which he who will go unnamed on this program. But things have changed. I mean, the inauguration of President Biden really represents a major sea change in the field of immigration and what it means to immigrants' lives in the United States. Again, everything that you heard, negative, just nothing but negativity, how immigrants were a drain on society and they're all rapists and killers, and countries sending the United States their worst instead of their best, and so on and so forth. Everybody's heard it. Well, now, we're back to some semblance of normality pre-2016 style, and it's time, and I think a lot of people will bear me out on this, it's time that immigrants they don't have to cower in their communities and stay home and because they're afraid to leave their house because they might get arrested and never see their family again. They'll be on the next plane back to their country. Those days are pretty much over. The Biden administration has already made it very clear that they intend to fulfill Biden's campaign promises, that he's already ready to change the immigration laws beyond the executive orders that have already been issued. I mean, they've proposed a major change in the immigration laws, which have to go through Congress. But I've been doing this for over 35 years, and I've never seen an administration come into power and make such a bold statement right off the bat. This is a first, and I've been following this for a long time. I've been an immigration lawyer now since 1985. My dad was an immigration lawyer for 20 years before that. So I've grown up with immigration in my household. It's in my blood. So I've been following this for a very long time. And again, people, this is a historic moment that we're living through right now in terms of what's going to change and what's going to happen for the immigrant population out there. So those of you that have been hiding and worrying, and is my dad gonna go to work today and he's not gonna come home and I won't see him again? Those days pretty much are over. I mean, of course there are exceptions to every rule, but those days are pretty much over, and it's these are good times ahead. So absolutely. That said, I've taken up enough of my time. Squeeze, I'll hand it back over to you.
Thanks. The managing partner of the firm, Pollock, Isaac and DeSico, Conrad Pollock, ladies and gentlemen, we call him the maestro. We'll talk about that another time as to why we call him that. But with that said, ladies and gentlemen, he's right. We're going to be speaking a lot about immigration tonight, other areas of the firm. We do have some guests, and before we get to that guest, which happens to be the Consul General of Jamaica, I just wanted to introduce one of my colleague, Adam Handler, and also another of my colleague, Nelson Madrid, as they do the show each and every single morning with me. We'll get to the General, Alan E.K., another attorney, later on, because he has a lot to say. Adam, any quick words you have got to say?
No, I'm just really excited that we're doing this tonight. You and I, Squeeze, have been doing the radio together for nearly 15 years. I think this is the first time that we've really brought out, the big guns. Everybody's out here tonight kind of just letting everybody know about who we are and what we do and exactly how we do it. I always like to think of the radio show and these Zoom broadcasts as an extended interview. You get a sense as to who we are, not only as professionals, but as people. We joke around, but we also have a great deal of respect for each other, and the way we conduct our business professionally, I believe, is unmatched here in New York. We certainly are exceptional attorneys. You can't say you're the best, but I will say we're exceptional. And speaking of exceptional, I'm glad that my associate, Matthew Goodstein, also from the personal injury department, is here. He is certainly, I don't want to say my right-hand man, but we work side by side, tandem, and all those millions and millions and millions and millions and millions of dollars that we've recovered over the years for our clients is largely due to his efforts as well. So Matthew, welcome to, I don't want to say your 5 minutes of fame, because hopefully you'll be on another time, but welcome and thank you for your hard work. And we're just excited to be here. It's a full service law firm and we really kick some serious butt. So with that said, I'd love to hear what the other panelists have to say and maybe get to some questions and
absolutely
everybody out there thinks.
All right, Nelson. Okay, the Maverick, one of the partners at the firm. I just want to find out what you got to say about the forum today as we get deep into the show.
I'd like to take a moment and thank everyone for tuning in. I'd like to thank my fellow panelists for obviously being here this evening. And I'm looking forward to providing some hopefully good information on, what people can expect in the very near future.
Okay, great, beautiful. Once again, folks, if you're just joining us, 93.5 FM listeners, We've got a lot to actually get into right now. I just wanted to introduce everyone and let everyone understand that this is brought to you by the law firm Pollock, Isaac, and DeSico. You heard from some of the attorneys so far. The premise, like I said, will be immigration. I am David Squeezaniki, CEO of the Link Up Media group of companies, and we've got a lot to talk about. We have a special guest that's already logged in with us. Of course, I would say the Honorable Alcion Roach Wilson, okay. The Consul General of Jamaica is actually on with us. I'm going to ask her what she'd like to say about what it is and where it is that we are with this current administration, previous administration, anything she wants to say on behalf of herself and the consulate, and also any question that she may have, in reference to immigration and so forth. So just wanted to say, as we ask you to unmute, CG Alcion Roach Wilson, welcome to the panel.
Hi, how are you, David?
I am wonderful. It's good to have you here. How is everything in your part of the country?
Oh, it has been a very, very hectic few days. Actually, one of our employees tested positive for COVID.
Wow.
Yeah, last Thursday, to be precise. So we had to jump into action now.
How did you work that out, considering?
Well, yeah, well, it wasn't bad that bad for us this time around. It's the second time that we've had an employee tested positive for COVID. The first time, though, was very difficult. The first time was last year, March, around mid-March.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, I had only been the Consul General at that time for about maybe 4 or 5 months.
Mm-hmm.
And so, and everyone was new to COVID-19, so we had no idea what to do. And so the one thing I knew, though, that we needed to do was to close the mission, right? We had to close the consulate and get the staff members into quarantine, tested, and so forth. And then I had to figure out, we received, David, and I'm happy that you actually invited me to join, because we received, believe it or not, and this is no joke, about 4,000 calls at the consulate every single day, right?
Oh.
And so I was petrified at the time because I had no idea what we're going to do as it relates to those callers that would be that would call every day with all kinds of questions, immigration questions, questions about their passport, questions about Jamaican citizenship, and so on. And so I placed a call to my phone company and asked them how quickly could they implement a system where I could have the calls from the main line forwarded to our CUG cell phones. And so the phone company says to me, we can have that done in a few hours. And so luckily, what we were able to do is have the calls rerouted to all our cell phones.
Wow,
so you
great.
call and the main number, and the call will get forwarded to our cell phones. We'll answer as though we're in the office, and many persons thought we were in the office. So that's what I did. I implemented again this time around.
Wow. Well, congratulations. I'm very happy that you were able to sort it out very quickly. Now you have done your mission, as you put it, done a seminar with Pollock, Isaac, and DeSico, and I understand that you were elated about it and you were very happy about it. I just wanted to find out if you had any questions for them or anything that you'd like to say in reference to your mission.
Yeah. Yes, thank you. I was very, very grateful for that session. And in fact, I would like to invite them to come back for another session. I think actually, though, David, that we do need to have a series. So we need to implement something where, this is not a one-off
Okay,
thing.
gotcha.
At the consulate, we are actually responsible for 33 states. So not just New York.
Oh, okay.
Yes. So, and that's why we receive so many calls per day.
So you're saying you're the Consul General for 33 states. Pretty much that's what you're saying.
Plus, I'm the Consul General for 33 states, plus Puerto Rico and Bermuda.
Wow.
And we do have a lot of Jamaicans that lives in Bermuda, and I believe it or not, and also in Puerto Rico. But the thing here, though, is not that we're are responsible for 33 states, but the major states where you have, the majority of our Jamaican diaspora living in. So New York, New Jersey, Connecticut, Philadelphia, Minnesota, there's a large Jamaican diaspora in Minnesota, Utah, and so forth. Chicago, we have, and even up in New Hampshire. And we are also responsible. And so we receive many calls as it relates to, immigration questions. Some we are not permitted to participate in because for the most part, their questions has to do with, U.S. matters, right?
Right.
For example, one person called today and, I am applying for my green card, but, I am not sure if, what information the US government is looking for. So I have these forms in front of me. I don't know how to fill them out. Now, we are really not permitted to, to get involved in these matters, right? However, what we can do is then forward those, the persons that call to, to an immigration lawyer, attorney.
Right.
And so that's why I would like for us to have
a series,
right. Going forward where, one thing I have to say quickly, and, again, the census, not the last census that was done, 10 years ago. And I received this information from the mayor's office. So, and I'm sure the immigration attorneys will know this. The lion's share of the immigrants are, I believe, China, and then DR, and then Jamaica, right? And so within the states that we're responsible for, we have well over 1.2 million Jamaicans. Now,
wow.
Majority though of these Jamaicans are undocumented. And they are afraid to call, say, the U.S. Immigration hotline numbers.
Right.
They feel more comfortable calling us at the consulate. And so what I would like, and that's why I'm asking for us to have some sort of a series so that, these persons that call for whatever reasons can feel comfortable speaking with someone that we...
And not to interrupt you, to interrupt you, but the managing partner, Conrad, was actually saying that earlier, that considering that we now have a different administration, people can actually come up for air now. They don't have to feel or believe that they can't speak to attorneys now. They can't speak to a PPID. So I'm very happy that you're bringing up that point. I don't know if Conrad wants to comment on that in reference to that as we get into what it is that Biden is about to do or is doing.
Well, you shut me off. It's like I was talking too much. Right? Now you want me to talk again?
Well, I just wanted to respond to the CG and then, ask her if she has anything else to say, and she wants to say she can stay. But I want to get to Alan EK, who has a ton of information about Biden's executive orders.
Well, actually, I mean, that's precisely what I was saying, how, just in the past 3 weeks, we're in a new world. And so I'm not surprised that you've gotten as many phone calls as you have. And you're going to get more because there are more orders coming. And if the immigration laws change the way the Biden administration is proposing, you're going to need some new receptionists because you're going to be getting a lot more phone calls. Yes. And again, it's one of the reasons we're doing this now after the inauguration. We waited deliberately because there are so many things happening and there's so many positive changes. In the previous administration, there were changes constantly. In fact, Friday nights, the panel here, they'll all chime in and back me up here. It was always on a Friday night that we get emails or texts about new laws that have come into play, that this person is not allowed to get his green card, or this person has been locked up and, sent on his way back to Jamaica, or this group of immigrants has been banned from coming to the United States for whatever reason. That's all we ever heard for the past 4 years on a pretty much daily, if not weekly basis. Now, it's the opposite. Now, every day we're getting good news, and they're all, basically, as I like to say on our morning show, the welcome mat out in front of the door to the entrance to the United States has been put back out, as opposed to being pulled. Before it was keep out. The last 4 years is like, keep out, we don't want you here. Now is a welcome mat saying, hey, we recognize the contributions you make to our society and we want you. please. That's the way it is now. So you're going to be seeing a lot more of that, I'm afraid.
There you go. Once again, folks, if you're just joining us, this is called the PPID Law Forum. We're speaking with the attorneys, and we also have our Consul General of Jamaica here. I actually didn't know that you were responsible for 33 states, and you said Puerto Rico and
Bermuda.
So that's very interesting and interesting news for me. So thanks so much for being here. What I'm going to do right now, Consul General, I'm going to ask Alan E.K. We call him the General because of his depth and his experience and his knowledge and years in the business of immigration. Later on, folks, we're going to be speaking with Adam Handler on personal injury. We've got, of course, you know, I think that's Fred, although his name says Conrad Pollock on the panel there. Fred DeSico, all right, who handles wills, trust, real estate, and more. We'll talk about that. And we
Slanderous.
You wondered why it's Pollock, Isaac, DeSica. You know, there's two of them.
We'll also get to your immigration questions because we know many of the attendees who are on right now have questions. Please start placing those questions to the panelists right now. We'll definitely get to those questions as we hear from Alan E.K. Now, CG, don't be afraid to jump in when Alan's speaking if you've got questions. And attorneys, don't be afraid to jump in. Zaina, everybody, don't be afraid to jump in when Alan is actually giving information. The only person that will keep out is Conrad, you know. But everybody else, you know, can jump. Yes.
I got my notepad here to jot down everything.
You got your notepad. It's gonna be a lot of information. So people, turn up your radios. If you're on Facebook, share away. All right. A lot of information is about to be given right now. So we want to say thanks for joining us. Please share on Facebook. Please text someone. Let them know. If you'd like to join in on the Zoom session, go to eventbrite.com, type in PPID, register. It's free. We also, at the end of this forum here, will be giving away an iPad, of which Zaina, our coordinator, will tell us exactly how we're going to be giving that away. All right. So let's get back to immigration right now and see what it is.
Squeeze, before you do that, I just would like to also introduce Jacob Aronauer, who is an expert in employment relations, labor relations. Any of our clients or any of our listeners who have an issue these days, maybe their employer is not making the right choices or decisions, how to treat various employees who have COVID or who have issues, or if you're an employer and you have questions on what your obligations are under new laws, this is Jacob's expertise. He's part of the Pollock family, and I'm glad he was able to join us. Thank you, Jacob.
Jacob, how are you feeling over there? How are you feeling over there? Let me give out the number. For those people who'd like to get the number for the firm, 844-774-3529. That's 844-774-3529, 844-PPID-LAW. CG, you're about to say something, and then Jacob, I'll let you go.
I don't see the link on your Facebook page. I wanted to share it to the consulate's page, but I don't see it here.
Not a problem. Ali, if you can just pop that link up on the our Facebook pages, you know, this way we can actually get it shared by, of course, the CG's consulate. All right, let's get Jacob, expound for a minute on what exactly you do. I know Fred did your speech for you, but I'd like to hear it from you.
Oh, okay, thank you. And thanks for the introduction, Fred. I specialize in employment law with an emphasis on unpaid wages. To piggyback a little bit on what Conrad mentioned, during the prior presidential administration, I would have a lot of potential client meetings where the potential client's immigration status, let's say, was less than ideal, and they would be very fearful to bring a lawsuit because of ICE and the way immigrants were being treated. So, you know, I'm hopeful now with this new administration that more people will feel confident to bring lawsuits against employers who are not paying them in compliance with the law.
Okay. And they can reach you at 844-774-3529. That's 844-774-3529. Zaina, what's the email address that people can actually subscribe to? You got to unmute though.
It is news@ppid.com. News@ppid.com.
And how often do you send out the newsletter?
It just depends on Well, at least once a week, but with all the changes that are happening, we send newsletter more often than that.
And I appreciate that because there's a lot that's actually
Yeah.
coming. All right. So, okay. All right. Let's go over to Alan E.K., the general. You know, how are you doing today?
I'm good, thank you. We have a lot of information to share, and I'd like to call on some of my colleagues. We have an outline about different topics we're going to cover.
Mhm.
So I don't want to monopolize everything. So let me call on Nelson, who's going to talk about the Biden immigration policy. And then we will go on to talk about the US Citizenship Act of 2021, which President Biden has proposed, and Guy will talk about that. And then I will come on, and Andrew will come on, and Conrad will come. So let's start with Nelson. Tell us about the Biden immigration policy.
Sure. You know, one of the questions we get asked most often is, how has President Biden changed immigration? In his first 2 weeks in office, President Biden has signed nearly as many executive orders as Franklin Roosevelt did in his first month. And President Roosevelt holds the record. 9 of those executive orders signed by Biden are literally immigration related. An executive order is a rule or order made by the President of the United States. The order tells the agencies and officers of the federal government of the United States things that they must do. So the fact he has already issued 9 executive orders specifically targeting immigration, I believe is, you know, as Conrad said before, it's monumental. It's not something that has been seen before. You know, we can actually talk about some of those executive orders. The most recent executive order actually increases refugee admission to 125,000. You know, another executive order actually revoked Trump's order justifying the separation of families. Another executive order targets economic and political causes of people immigrating to the United States. Another executive order that's immigration related is, you know, Biden rescinds Trump's memo requiring immigrants to repay the government if they receive public benefits. He fortified DACA. He reversed the Muslim travel ban. He undid Trump's expansion of immigration enforcement. He stopped the construction of the border wall. And he actually put a stay pretty much for the first 100 days of office on people being removed from the United States, which was obviously appealed, I believe, by the governor of Texas. And actually, I believe Arizona recently filed an appeal as well. You know, just so people have an idea, you know, one of the most famous executive orders of all time was the Emancipation Proclamation. You know, that was an executive order, just to give people an idea of just how powerful an executive order is. So, you know, again, I am confident, I am optimistic that there will be reform. You know, the question is when. Another question we get asked often is, you know, will Congress pass an immigration bill? You know, something you keep hearing over and over as an immigration practitioner is, you know, the President of the United States has to set priorities. You know, we are in the middle of a pandemic. There is a vaccine shortage. You know, obviously that is at the moment a priority. But eventually, you know, obviously Biden is a pretty smart guy. He was around for 8 years while Obama was president. He was in the Senate for, I believe, over 40 years. Right now, it's, you know, obvious that the Democrats control the Congress. So he has a certain amount of time in which to get things done. I think he will take advantage of that. I think something will happen. Again, when exactly, that is unclear. You know, my advice to many or all of the listeners or anyone who is considering legalizing their status, you know, be very careful. You know, right now there are a lot of people trying to take advantage of the vulnerable. you know, nothing is set in stone. Nothing has been finalized. There is a proposal. There is, in my opinion, a very ambitious proposal. You know, again, that's still in the process. It's still in the works. Nothing has been finalized. You know, if anybody should have any more questions, we do have a newsletter. The newsletter, you can sign up for the newsletter. I think the newsletter comes out every week or every 2 weeks. It pretty much updates people with all of the changes, not just in immigration law, you know, but in different areas of law that we practice.
Once again, folks, this is the PPID Law Forum. I want to say thanks to Nelson Madrid, one of the top immigration attorneys, in my opinion, in the entire country. And this individual, if anyone ever gets put in removal proceeding, I've always said it, and I'll say it again, you need Nelson Madrid. We call him the Maverick at the firm. He's a partner at the firm in the immigration department. Thank you so much, Nelson, for that. And once again, the phone number for the firm, anyone out there, once again, you need immigration help, you reach out to 844-774-3529. That's 844-774-3529. Before I get back to you, Alan EK, Jacob, what if someone is out of status and has an issue with employment? Could you actually help them where that is concerned?
Excellent question. I can help them. It doesn't matter what your status is. You still have the right to bring employment claims under both federal and state law.
Thank you so much. 844-PPID-LAW. That's 844-PPID-LAW. And I want to throw in a quick immigration question here, and maybe Andrea or one of the other attorneys can actually jump on this question, because I don't want us to miss the questions or we're going to get beat up. Well, I know I'm going to get beat up. So let me just get the questions in between before I hand it back to you, Alan. Hopefully this one can be answered in under a minute. It says here, my husband arrived in the United States on the I-130. He recently received his social security number, but I want to know if the green card would come by itself too, because SSN card arrived itself in the mailbox. Nelson?
Right. So I would need more facts. I assume that she filed an application for adjustment of status for her husband. Typically with an application for adjustment of status, there's first a petition, there's an application for employment authorization, and then there's the application for adjustment of status. It's not uncommon for someone, you know, there is an option that allows you, when you apply for an employment authorization, to receive your social security card. You know, dealing with immigration, and I say this often, is a roll of the dice. It's unclear, you know, there's no black and white. Things are not always clear cut. There is a possibility her case can be approved. There is a possibility she can get called in for an interview. You know, at the moment, it's unclear. I don't know when she filed. I don't know how long she's filed. I don't know what her status is. You know, is she a permanent resident? Is she a citizen? Did her husband enter on a visa? You know, again, I'm giving very general information. It's hard to give specifics. Right. It's hard to give specifics because, again, I have a lot more questions before I can actually give a more concrete answer.
Absolutely. And do remember, folks, there's a Q&A section that's here on the Zoom. Okay, you can ask your question. The attorneys will actually respond to those questions directly, as I see one of the attorneys of the firm, Alexandra Bondakov.
Alexandra.
Yeah, she's actually responding to questions. So please, if you would like to ask your questions directly, you can do that in the Q&A section. Other than that, you can do it on Facebook, and our marketing team will actually post those questions here. Let's get back to Alan EK as I remind you of the number for the firm, a full-service law firm, PPID, Pollock, ISEC, and the C code. We're going to be touching also on personal injury after we hear what Alan EK has to say on immigration in this part. Alan.
Okay, our next speaker relates to President Biden's a unique proposal, which is called the United States Citizenship Act of 2021. Very broad, and Yi Zhao is going to tell us a little bit about the provisions and analysis of the U.S. Citizenship Act of 2021. Yi?
You may want to unmute, Yi. I got to hit that unmute. There you go.
Okay.
There you go. Now you can go.
You got me now? You got me now?
Yeah.
Okay. So Mr. Madrid was talking about some of the executive orders that have come out under the beginning days of the Biden administration. Under our immigration system, some of the more weighty aspects, if we're looking for true change in immigration, have to go through Congress, which means a law has to be passed. He can't do everything by executive order. He can only nibble around the edges, so to speak. So what he's done is he's introduced a giant act into Congress. It's called the US Citizenship Act of 2021, in an effort at comprehensive immigration reform. And one of the cornerstones of this reform piece would allow for many people who are in the United States illegally as of January 1st, 2021, to have a pathway to legalize their status. They have to pass criminal and national security background checks, they have to pay their taxes, and thereafter they would get a 5-year temporary residency. That 5-year temporary residency then leads to a green card. 3 years after getting the green card, they will be eligible for citizenship. So that's your path. It's about 8 years for people who are illegally in the United States, regardless of whether they entered with a visa or illegally through the border. Okay, and there are special provisions for protected groups. For example, people who came here as children, so-called dreamers, people who received DACA, people who received a temporary protected status, which applies to many Central American countries, as well as several Middle Eastern countries. Those people would get a leg up in the process by being immediately eligible for a green card. And then thereafter, the green card, of course, leads to citizenship. Okay, there are other monumental changes. One of them is the proposed elimination of what's called the 3 and 10-year bars. So under existing law, what happens is, if you're here illegally in the United States, and then you leave the country, you will likely not be able to come back into the country because you trip one of the unlawful presence bars. You've been here illegally, you leave the country, you are found inadmissible. The proposed act would eliminate those 3 and 10-year bars, which would make it a lot easier for people who, for example, are married to United States citizens to be able to get their green card without going through the complicated waiver processes. People, for example, who entered illegally can't just apply for adjustment of status to get a green card. That's not the way it works. You usually have to leave the country to go to the consulate to get a visa. But then if you're subject to those bars because you've been here illegally, then they won't let you back in. So that creates a little bit of a quandary. People could potentially be stuck abroad for an extended period of time. And this would seek to eliminate those issues. In addition, it promotes family sponsorship issues by allowing people who have approved petitions, they're just waiting for their place in line to be eligible for temporary residency while they wait for that place in line. That way they don't have to wait, for example, 20 years. It could be 20 years or more than that for some categories, family-based categories right now, and it's simply not feasible for many immigrants.
Gotcha. Yee, thank you so much. Later on, we'll come back and speak about a case that you worked on recently with the Nelson Matrix and others, which made it to, I believe, WPIX. We'll talk a whole lot more about that later on. But let's send it back over to Alan EK. Once again, the phone number for the firm, if you have got immigration questions or help, you can get yourself a consultation. Then you can retain them. It's entirely up to you. And I would implore you, ladies and gentlemen, as I've always done, don't do your case yourself, and don't give your case to someone who says that they can work on it themselves. You know, go with a reputable attorney, such as attorneys from the law firm PPID, Pollock, Isaac, and Masico. The number is 844-774-3529, 844-PPID-LAW. You can actually call that number now. And gentlemen and ladies, feel free to jump in. in our session here, with Alan EK at any given time. All right, Alan, it's all yours.
I'm going to speak very briefly about health insurance. On October 4th, 2019, the ex-president issued a proclamation that said that beginning November 3rd, 2019, it would restrict all immigration to the United States by people who are uninsured and cannot pay the cost of their health care. This restriction was independent of the public charge determinations, which we're going to talk about shortly. The good thing is that implementation of President Trump's, I said it, I shouldn't say his name, health insurance proclamation has been enjoined by the federal court. On November 26, 2019, U.S. District Judge in Oregon granted a preliminary injunction which would stop the health insurance requirement. And so the government could not take any action to implement or enforce the health insurance proclamation until the case was resolved, and it's still not resolved, and therefore there's no health insurance requirement right now, which is a very good thing. Now, the next speaker is going to talk about the public charge and what's happening with that, and I had just mentioned that briefly, and then she's also going to talk about DACA. So, Andrea, tell us about public charge, and then tell us about DACA.
Hi, everyone. So the public charge rule is one of the biggest changes that the Trump administration made. Sorry, I'm going to try to say the prior administration instead of the Trump administration. It went into effect on February 24th, 2020. And since it's been in effect, it's been litigated for many, many months. It goes back and forth. We've seen that it goes into place and we have to send a specific form that goes with the public charge rule. We've also seen that it's been stopped, so we don't have to follow these rules. So it's been very difficult to keep track of. But as of right now, as it stands, everyone or most people that are applying for adjustment of status are subject to the public charge rule. This rule is basically set in place to make it a lot more hard for people to obtain status or a green card. It comes with a form called Form I-944, the Declaration of Self-Sufficiency, which is very intrusive. It's 18 pages long, and it takes a long time to fill out. It's been a lot of work for applicants and for attorneys to do.
What are some of the things that's in this form? If you can give us 2 or 3, which you think is ridiculous. Some of them.
Yeah, so it asks for your work history, your skills, your education history, your English language ability. It asks for your financial information, including credit report, credit score. It asks you for the premium on your health insurance in the United States. I mean, it's a very, very intrusive form. They wanted people to send evidence of all their financials, all their tax returns, their credit card debts, their liabilities, absolutely everything. So it's been very difficult and challenging. The Biden administration has not said anything specifically on it because it is a rule, it's not an executive order. So it's going to take a lot longer for the administration to be able to undo it or rescind it. It has to go through the proper channels, administrative channels. So it will take a while. But they did, Biden issued an executive order on February 2nd, where they required that by April 3rd of 2021, the heads of the proper agencies, including the DHS or Secretary of State, to review all actions related to the implementation of the public charge rule. The rule is also still being litigated in the courts. So we might be able to see it being overturned in the courts faster than the Biden administration will be able to undo it through the proper channels.
Okay.
So,
Squeeze?
Yes.
May I just say something real quickly?
Sure. That's a general.
Yes. Maybe she should explain a little bit what the public charge rule is about.
Okay.
Many of the questions that we have received at the consulate, believe it or not, have to do with the public charge rule.
Good question.
Sure.
What we have seen also is persons have called to say, my family members have called, from all over to say, get off welfare. And so now, we're not working and we're going to have to get off welfare. Can you help with food at the counseling? Persons have called to say, we're going to have to get off Medicaid and Medicare because of this rule. So I think there's a lot of confusion surrounding this rules. Maybe persons don't really understand it fully. And so I think maybe she should just explain a little bit what the public charge rule is.
Andrea?
Definitely. So there's a lot of, like you said, there's a lot of uncertainty with the rule. Basically, if you are already a green card holder, the rule does not apply to you, okay? So you can get benefits, you can apply for welfare, you can apply for all of these things if you're already a green card holder. If you're not a green card holder and you're filing for a family member, for your mother, for your spouse, they are subject to the public charge rule. So what that means is that you can have some sort of benefits, but they cannot be for longer than 12 months, okay? And again, if you get emergency Medicare because of you're pregnant, that doesn't count. If the benefits are for your children, that doesn't count. For your US citizen children, that doesn't count. And it doesn't apply to people that file for asylum, people that have VAWAs, which are Violence Against Women Act claims, people that have U visas, which are for victims of crime. So there's a lot of people that are not subject to this rule. So again, I could talk about this for hours. I would say we can, have a consult with them and explain if they are or not subject to this rule. But there's a lot of things and misconceptions out there about who it applies to and what it is.
Andrew, if I could just chime in for a second. One thing to keep in mind about the public charge rule, the previous administration, well, let me say it this way. Public charge has always been a grounds for exclusion, a grounds for denying people their green cards. It's existed for, since there's been an immigration law in this country. I believe it goes back to the 1880s when it was first introduced along with the Chinese exclusion provisions that were created back then. Alan, you could probably speak to that a little more since that's more your era than mine. But besides that, I'm sorry. This was a way for the previous administration to exclude people. It was specifically created to make it more difficult for immigrants to get their green cards and to stay in the United States. Pure and simple. I mean, again, the public charge rule has been around forever. I've been practicing for a long time, and it's been there since I started, and it really hasn't changed much since that time. Stephen Miller, who was Trump's right-hand man on immigration, he basically knew the ins and outs of the immigration laws, and he knew that was a very good way to disqualify people, if not to just discourage them, because that application, that I-944 application, is 20 pages long, and it asks for more information than you would ever imagine. And it is such a difficult form to complete properly. And they knew exactly what they were doing. And as I said, it was a way to exclude immigrants from applying for the green cards, to discourage people from applying for the green cards, and just to say no to as many people as they could. And what's nice is that one of the positive things that the Biden administration has done, yes, as Andrea said, they have not eliminated this rule yet, but it's coming. It's already under review. The USCIS has already been given instructions to go easy in terms of interpreting it. We follow it regularly. The Immigration Service does require that you supply that form when you apply for your benefits, but I am not aware, and I haven't heard or read about any applications yet being denied. I doubt that it's going to be enforced as substantially, as severely as the Trump administration would have done had they won back in November. So even though it's still required and it's still an onerous requirement, I believe eventually, if it's not eliminated entirely, a lot of the teeth will be removed from that regulation. So if people are filing for the green cards or putting in applications for immigration benefits, that's a mistake. because I don't think it's going to be as intrusive as it seems right now. I think, again, I believe, maybe I'm being overly optimistic, but everything I've read, everything I've heard, the Biden administration is well aware of the reason that this application was created, and their immigration policies are the diametric opposite of what that administration tried to do. So I think, again, it's a pretty nasty application. I agree, but it's not going to affect people as substantially, as severely as we thought back.
This is the latest
last year.
This is the latest on public charge, and this is from the American Immigration Lawyers Association, of which I'm a past president, has a gentleman who does litigation for the ALN for lawyers, and basically he has said this about public charge: the administration has signaled its intent to dismantle the public charge rule. The rule is effective right now, but the Supreme Court is likely to rule on whether it will hear the government's appeal, because there have been injunctions against it in 2nd, 7th, 9th circuits. So probably the Department of Justice will walk back from their position, try to settle the lawsuits, leave the rule, that leaves the rule enjoined. So basically it's going to be going out. It's just going to take some time before it goes out.
Okay.
Now, our next speaker, Andrew, you want to talk about DACA a little bit?
Before we do that, I wanted to actually get Adam Handler, the case handler, seeing that is the most listened to, the top attorney on the radio station 93.5 FM in the personal injury capacity. And I wanted to touch on his department where immigration is concerned with one's status. God forbid they get into an accident or they have a slip and fall, a construction accident and so forth. So Adam?
Yeah, thanks so much. Well, first starting out with carrying on with the theme of immigrants and their rights. Of course, you know, we say all the time, and maybe we don't say enough, that it doesn't matter who you are, where you're from, or what you're doing here. You know, you can be from Mexico or the moon. Well, if you're from the moon, you're not a human being. But as long as you're a human being, you are entitled to money under the law with respect to personal injury cases in New York. It doesn't matter if you're documented to work, undocumented to work. And in fact, there was significant law changes last year in 2020 that we were very proud to announce that actually curtailed ICE's ability to come into courts and wreak havoc. You know, people were actually scared to come to court to testify in their own case, or maybe a family member's case, or scared to come into family court or criminal court for the fear of being picked up and placed into deportation proceedings. So the courts are officially a safe place, as they should be, for immigrants, and certainly makes the courts and your ability to seek justice accessible for everybody. And with respect to the immigration cases here at the firm, we have plenty of clients that are either immigrants or family of immigrants that we are able to help extend visas, adjust status based on special circumstances concerning accidents. We've had situations in which people have been visiting on a visa. We've extended the visa so they can partake in the medical treatment here and be active participant in their case, and then they'd be back home and we'd send the funds down to them. We've done some special things here. I personally have always felt a passion for representing the immigrant community. I don't know, I just feel like, siding with the underdog is just good karma, good vibes. And certainly when you come to this country and you don't know where to turn or who to trust, it could be a very, very scary thing. And I'd like to think that for my 17 plus years of practice and for those 15 plus years, serving exclusively, almost exclusively the immigrant community, that I've showed that I've been a trustworthy advocate, that I've been a trustworthy counselor, and people have embraced me, and it's the community I certainly have embraced back. So we are certainly appreciative of all the business we get, but knowing that we do special things for people that have been turned away from other attorneys even makes it more motivating for us. Very, very quickly, I'd just like to speak. I'm not a host, a co-host on it, Squeeze, but I would like to touch upon a few of the highlighted cases. We do this show, ladies and gentlemen, every day, consistently, Monday through Friday at 9:30 a.m. We have a show called Cruising with the Case Handler, which we talk about true life success stories, or we'll answer the immigration questions So those of you listening right now, either on Zoom or 93.5 FM, if you can go one step further and check us out on social media, because I really believe we have an unmatched social media campaign. They call me the case handler, so you can check out the case handler on Instagram or Facebook, or check out PPID on Instagram and Facebook. And you'll really, again, see who we are as people, attorneys, and how we conduct our business. And just, very briefly, you'll be able to see, things like this, what we show. This is our website. I'm very proud of it. We update it nearly every day with true life success stories. And I always say, Squeeze, don't trust, don't necessarily, you can trust us. Don't necessarily take our word for it. You can trust us. You know what they say, when a lawyer says, trust me, go the other way. But no, it's different with PPID. I'm serious, because we do handle our business in a different way. But, don't take our word for it. Don't take Squeeze's word for it. Don't take the other DJs on this radio station that have endorsed me for decades. Don't take their word for it. Take the word for it of those people that really sought what they believe to be the best possible attorney fighting for their chance. And that's immigration, personal injury, employment law, wills and estates, real estate, criminal defense, matrimonial. And you can see, there's smiling faces everywhere. Cases that we really are proud of are our top verdicts and settlements. Again, personal injury, the only remedy you have is financial recovery, is monetary compensation. We get you compensated for your medical bills, your time out of work, your lost wages. And these are big numbers. These are significant numbers, certainly life-changing numbers for life-changing injuries. And I can only ask that you consider this session an extended interview. Know who we are, know we're out here. Hopefully you never need us, but God forbid you do, Squeeze. I'm sure you'll confirm with me that having a great lawyer, having a trustworthy lawyer, having a lawyer that's really going to fight for you like family, not just like a file, is an invaluable asset. So with that said, I'd love to kick it back to immigration. I thank everybody for tuning in and listening on 93.5 FM, and continue to check us out on Facebook. We're streaming live on Facebook right now.
Absolutely. Once again, folks, you can follow us on Facebook, David Squeeze Anarchy, PPID, Paula Kaisico, and the Case Handler and Link Up Radio. Make sure you check us out there and continue watching and listening to this PPID Law Forum. Once again, folks, we do appreciate you. 844-774-3529. That's 844-774-3529. We'll kick it back to Andrea in continuum of what it is that she was speaking about. She spoke on the public charge, and I think she's about to speak about something else that's extremely important.
So the last thing I was going to talk about today is DACA. DACA is Deferred Actions for Childhood Arrivals. It was implemented by the Obama administration in 2012, and it basically gave employment authorization documents to a lot of children that were, well, at that time they were already adults, but they came into the US as children before their 16th birthday. One of the first things that the prior administration did was to terminate the program, or attempt to terminate the program. Through numerous litigations in the courts, the prior administration was never fully able to terminate the program, and the Supreme Court held in last year, in 2020, that the way they tried to terminate the program was illegal, and so DACA basically stayed. As of right now, the DACA program is completely available to people that qualify. The USCIS is accepting first-time requests. They are also accepting renewals. They are also allowing people with DACA to obtain an advanced parole document that lets them travel outside the country and come back. And basically, DACA is back to how it was in 2012. Biden now is proposing to create a pathway for citizenship for DACA holders. Basically, DACA just gives you an employment authorization card. So you can't really go any further than that. You can just renew your employment authorization as of right now. But one of the plans and one of the things that we do think will be able to happen with the proposed bill is that something will happen with DACA. We will get more information and a clearer path to a green card and later citizenship with the DACA program. And on January 20th, 2021, he issued a memorandum where he directed the DHS Secretary and the Attorney General to take actions to preserve and fortify DACA. So that has been one of his biggest focuses starting his administration. So we do feel very optimistic that the DACA program will allow people to obtain a green card and then a citizenship.
Andrea Scheer, one of the attorneys at the firm, PPID, Pollock, Isaac, and DeSico. Do remember that you can call 844-774-3529 to actually get yourself a consultation and hire the firm. That's 844-774-3529. We're about to kick it back to Alan, but I see Fred, you're over there. Just wanted to get you involved a little bit here. Don't want you falling asleep with us over there. Just so you tell folks once again what it is that you do at the firm, seeing that you are a partner there. You may want to unmute.
Fred, you got to unmute, bud.
You got to unmute.
Fred is not just a partner, he's actually a named partner.
I'm not just a partner, I'm a customer. No, I've been with Conrad and Brian and now with Adam, but Conrad and Brian and I go back over 30 years. And probably one of the most enjoyable things for me is I have clients who tell me that Conrad helped them get their green card, 25 years ago. And now they're with me, and now, they've bought a home, and now their children are starting a business. And you could see the whole natural progression of what the American dream really means for people. And you could actually see people experience that growth from the challenges of first coming to this country to the point where you become established or your children become established and so on. I'm second generation here. The first of my family, my sisters and I are the first to go to higher education. And I can appreciate the immigrant experience. I see through my clients what my grandparents went through some years ago. And at the end of the day, while I don't work in immigration law, I think what I do is practice in an area that is the ultimate device for people to become successful in America, and that's real estate. Whether it's, buying your own home or starting your own business or, eventually establishing roots in a community, it begins with real estate. Forgetting the fact that, if you looked at most of the billionaires in the world, most of them made their money in real estate. Putting that on the side, people who come to this country want the American dream, and the American dream involves having an opportunity to own your own home. So my department helps people do that. It helps people who've done investments manage their properties, manage their investments. And we also help people start businesses. We help people form corporations, limited liability companies, form partnerships, joint ventures, whatever the case may be. We do all of these things for our clients, even if it's something simple as starting a business out of their apartment. It's not a question of something that they have to do. I'm sorry, I have sports alerts on my phone, and that supersedes any legal responsibility I have. But all kidding aside, I mean, who wouldn't want to know that the Knicks are getting ready to play in 15 minutes, right? I'm sorry, all. But bottom line is that what I do is something that many of Adam's clients and Conrad's clients can eventually need help in, and I'm here for that.
Thank you so much, Fred DeSico, one of the partners at the firm. I do appreciate you, of course, speaking on what it is, speaking on your capacity at the firm. It's definitely appreciated. All right. And try and visit us sometime when we're doing a radio show during the week. It would be it would be kind of nice. I'm just being cynical there, but it would be kind of nice, All right, so kicking it back to Alex.
David, my other partners, come on, they like to sleep late. Come on.
Well, let me kick it back to Alan EK. Consul General, you don't have to hang with us the whole time, because this can go on forever. And we have got quite a few questions that people have that we're definitely going to be answering. And I see that, the folks are waiting for those questions. So I'm just saying, I do appreciate you being here, by the way,
No, that's okay. Squeeze. I'm having a hard time calling you David because I've known you for so many years.
I know.
But I listen, I'm here to see about the interest of our national. So I want to stick around so that I can, if there's something that I can benefit from, that I could pass on to my diaspora members, I saw that someone posted a question related to adoption. And in fact, today I received a call about someone that wants to adopt a child from Jamaica. So I'll stick around.
Absolutely. And Conrad,
and I'm sorry. And I also want to win that tablet. How could I forget that?
I wanted to speak about your initiative later on.
Yes. Yes.
So I don't know if Conrad wanted or any of the attorneys want to answer that right now. Do you guys? Someone asked on Facebook if you do adoption.
I'm not seeing the questions myself. So, I mean, if the adoption is if the child is not in the United States, that's not something we would handle. That's something they would have to do outside the country, in whatever country they're located.
Okay.
Is that the situation?
I think it's a general question.
It's not clear where the child is to be adopted. The assumption is probably that the child is in Jamaica or overseas and wants to be adopted to come here. So it's not clear.
Okay. All right. We'll expound on that.
Need more details there.
Right.
I mean, there are immigration ramifications of that type of situation. If the child is in Jamaica, let's say, hypothetically, in order for a parent to adopt that child, in order to confer some kind of immigration benefit, U.S. citizenship for that child, typically they would need to be an orphan, classified as an orphan. And there's an immigration form, is an orphan petition. I believe it's I-600A, Alan? Does that sound right?
Yep.
And they would have to be classified as an orphan and undergo the adoption according to the laws of the country in which the child is in. And then once that's done, they could confer immigration benefits on the child, and the child can enter the United States as a U.S. citizen. I'm not sure if that's the situation they're referring to. There is another adoption situation with regard to immigration law. If the child, it doesn't matter where the child is, if the child is under 16 and is adopted before if the child is adopted before the 16th birthday and spends 2 years joint custody and joint residence with the parent who's adopting that child, the parent can confer immigration benefits on the child, a green card. So again, the child would have to be adopted. The adoption would have to be completed before the child turns 16, and the child would have to live under the same roof basically as the parent for 2 years, and the parent would have to have legal custody of that child for 2 years. Again, the adoption must be completed before the child turns 16. That's the other general scenario. Those are the two cases that really adoption in an immigration context.
Thank you so much, Conrad. Alan E.K.
Excuse me, I'm sorry. May I ask one quick question?
Yeah, sure.
Are we going to be discussing deportation? Because that's one of the.
We're getting there.
Absolutely.
Getting there.
Okay, great. Because we get a lot of questions about that. Okay.
Yeah, we're getting there.
All right. Alan.
Recently, the Biden administration came out with a proposal that they would freeze deportation for 100 days. And that caused a lot of problems. And Conrad is going to tell you about what happened to the 100-day deportation freeze. Conrad.
My turn again. It seems like I'm constantly talking here. What are these other people doing? It's like, come on.
We'll get to them.
I'm only kidding. Well, yes, probably one of the more significant executive orders that Biden issued the first week of, in fact, I believe it was the second day that he was in office, second or third day, he proposed a 100-day moratorium on deportations, removals from the United States. Now, to understand what this is about, I think there needs to be some context. So I want to go back to the Obama administration for a minute And, you know, Obama was referred to by many people, usually on the other side of the aisle, as the deporter in chief. He did deport a lot of people. But one thing that the Obama administration did, you know, Obama recognized that the federal government had limited resources. Therefore, he prioritized into categories who was deserving of deportation and who wasn't. So basically, he targeted criminals. If you were a habitual criminal, rapist, murderer, you know, along those serious criminal, you were going to be deported no matter what. On the other hand, you know, people that might have been convicted of shoplifting or speeding or DWI once, those people were not high on the list. People that just were here illegally and just happened to be caught up at some point or other and picked up because they were here illegally, those people were basically given a pass. Yes, they'd have to show up for their hearings, but they wouldn't be on the next plane home. There were priorities. Again, limited resources, which the federal government always has. They targeted certain groups for deportation and went after them and did a fairly substantial job in terms of removing criminal aliens from the United States. Obama leaves, Trump comes in. Trump basically says, I mean, we all know what Trump was saying about immigrants. Basically, everybody's a target. Forget the priorities. They don't exist anymore. If you're here illegally, you're gone. I don't care. This is Trump speaking. I don't care if you're a rapist. I don't care if you're a dishwasher. If you entered the country illegally and you're not supposed to be here, if we catch you, we're going to deport you. And he unlike many other things that he said he was going to do, this he was very good at. Removed a lot of people and scared the crap out of a lot of people. And guys, remember, we all lived through it the last few years in terms of hearing from clients in immigrant communities how they were literally scared to leave their houses, you know, because of just fear of getting swept up in some ICE raid or ICE knocking on people's doors 3 a.m, you know, saying, you know, whatever. Person opens the door, next thing they know, they're on the next plane back the next day. You know, these are true stories. Anyway, Biden basically recognizing the mistakes that have been made by the previous administration, as well as the mistakes that were made by the Obama administration. One of the first things he did upon his inauguration was to impose a moratorium on deportations for 100 days. Pretty much, within a week, a lawsuit was filed in Texas. A federal judge that was appointed by Trump enjoined that moratorium. The Texas Attorney General was successful. They stopped it temporarily. There's also a new law, another case that's been filed, I believe today or yesterday or today in Arizona, basically the same case. These attorney generals down on the border are trying to stop this moratorium and keep, they're basically saying, look, Biden can't do that. He's got to enforce the law. These people are subject to deportation. They need to be deported. So there is a hold, there is an enjoinder on the moratorium that Biden proposed. I mean, that is the legal status of the situation at the moment. However, Biden is the executive. He's the head of the executive branch. He's chief executive. So basically, whatever rules, whatever directives he gives to his department, which includes the Department of Justice, Department of Homeland Security, USCIS, ICE, basically, they have to follow instructions that they're given by the administration. So even though this formal moratorium that was issued by executive order has been basically halted by this court, that doesn't mean that all of a sudden the deportations are going to ramp up again and they're going to start sending everybody home again. Yes, some people are still being deported, but there has definitely been a slowdown. We have an example of that. We have a client, and this is close to home. We have a client from India who had been caught up in exactly this situation this past year, last summer, who was in ICE raided as part of a raid. They showed up at his house in the middle of the night. He opened the door, unfortunately. They took him away. And this is a man who had no criminal record, been in the United States illegally for some 30 years, U.S. citizen wife, 3 kids, one of them seriously ill. He's a sole breadwinner. He's an Uber driver. and he was basically taking care of his family, staying out of trouble. He also had previous deportation proceedings, and he was showing up for his required visits to immigration on a regular basis. Immigration showed up one night, time's up, they locked him up, put him in jail, sent him down to Louisiana, no access to his family, no access to his lawyers. We were then retained. Long story short, this is a person who was supposed to be removed. We set up various legal impediments to prevent that from happening. And the Trump administration did everything they could to remove this guy and send him back to India, but they did not do it. Now, under the Biden administration, he's being released on Monday. And this is a man who's been in jail for, I think, the last 9 months, Nelson, or Yi? Is that about right?
Yeah.
He's been in immigration detention in 3 or 4 different facilities around the country.
Mm-hmm.
He's being released on Monday. To me, this is indicative of what's going on with the Biden administration. So my point being, yes, the moratorium that was proposed has been halted by a federal judge, but that doesn't mean that they're going to ramp up the deportation activities as the previous administration did. On the contrary, here is a clear-cut example of how they're not going to do that. So yes, again, there is no official moratorium, but in my opinion, and based on what we're seeing, deportations have certainly slowed. I believe, and everything we're reading, is that the Obama administration is going to return to priorities. They're going to remove the people that deserve to be removed. The people that are just here illegally, just trying to make a better way for themselves, support their family, pay their taxes, stay out of trouble, those people are no longer at risk, which is really welcome news to a lot of people, I'm sure, that are listening right now. Nelson, you wanted to add something?
Yeah, I do want to add something. You know, yes, our client is being released under the Biden administration, but he also has a team of great lawyers on his side. And I want to stress that, because that is one of our clients. Okay, listen, I want to give a shout out. I have a couple of my former clients who are on this forum and have reached out to me. So thank you guys for tuning in. Thank you for trusting us. Thank you for believing in us. And thank you for being here with us tonight.
Yeah, no, exceptional attorneys. I've said it once and I'll say it again.
Absolutely. Once again, folks, this is the PPID Law Forum. Do remember the phone number is 844-774-3529. Don't work on your case yourself. Reach out to the firm. Get a consultation at least. And then if you choose, you can hire them. All right? 844-PPID-LAW. And Conrad, I'm giving you 2 minutes to expound on the ban. Down to 2 minutes there.
I just want to say, you know, the one complaint I get from my clients is like, Mr. Pollack, why are you such a modest guy?
I'm not even going to respond
anyway.
to that.
The bans. Okay. In a nutshell, the previous administration, the previous president, the ex-president, issued a couple of proclamations last year under cover of COVID. Back in March and April of last year, basically, he issued some presidential proclamations banning certain groups of immigrants and temporary visitors from coming to the United States. There was a non-immigrant visa ban, which basically applied for those seeking to come to the United States as temporary workers, H-1B workers, H-2B workers, L-1s, J-1s, different categories of workers under which people typically come to the United States to supply temporary services, whether professional or non-professional, or trainees or corporate executives. All of these different visa categories, excepting a few, tourists weren't included, students were included, they were banned from coming to the United States. That ban officially was due to expire on December 31st. On the night of December 31st, which I believe was a Friday night, Trump extended it. It's currently in effect until March 31st of this year. So there's another month and a half to go. Now that as well, in June, 2 months or so later, he extended that ban to include those applying for immigrant benefits, people applying for green cards. And that applies to everybody, whether you're applying for your brother or whether you're applying for your married son or daughter. The only people that didn't apply that are seeking green cards are spouses of U.S. citizens and minor children under 21 of U.S. citizens. Everybody else is subject to that ban. So if you have a green card and you've been applying for your husband or wife and you've been waiting the last couple of years, or if you're a US citizen and you've been applying for your brother and you're waiting for the last 15 years and you were just on the verge of getting him an interview, when that ban was imposed back in June of 2020, basically put it on hold. And of course, the reason was that COVID. These people are going to bring COVID to the United States. That was the reason. Although, of course, the administration proposed these bans long before COVID existed, but that's another story. Anyway, the current ban on immigrant visas is also valid till March 31st of 2021. Both of these bans must be purposely extended in order to continue. So Biden either will terminate them prior to March 31st, or he will let them expire. He's got some political issues right now, which is probably why he hasn't terminated them yet, because he's got some pressure on him not to do that. My guess is, I think the guess of all of us here is that those bans are finally going to expire on March 31st, and those people waiting for their temporary visas, work visas, those people waiting for their green cards have been waiting for, whether it's 2 years, 10 years, 20 years, those people will be able to finally complete their cases after March 31st. That's the latest in a nutshell.
Okay. All right. Thanks a lot for keeping it 2 minutes under 5 minutes, Mr. Paula. All right.
That's not easy. That's a challenge. That's a real challenge you gave me there. You know that. I know. Well, once again, folks, it's a great forum so far. I do applaud and I do appreciate each and every one for being here. In continuation, let me just remind you, the phone number is 844-774-3529. If you all have suggestions, please put them in the chat, ladies and gentlemen, and this is not the last, forum that we'll be doing, so we'd like to get your feedback on it and what else we can do within it. I wanted to say thanks again to the Consul General of Jamaica for being here. I do appreciate you also. Let's hand it back over to Alan before we get to our questions. I do believe you're about to speak, and then we can get to all the questions that everyone has asked so far, right?
Yeah, I want to put in a piece for the Consul General. So we're going to depart from the outline. And Nelson, could you tell her a little bit about removal proceedings? Because she wanted to hear that.
Yes. So presently, removal there. The Immigration Court at 26 Federal Plaza and 290 Broadway have been closed for close to a year. It's unclear at this time exactly when they plan to reopen. I don't think there's necessarily a plan in place. Unfortunately, one of the things that's been happening is, they postpone through a certain date, and a few days before that date, we're notified that the postponement has been extended. So we really don't have any idea when they plan to reopen. This would be the non-detained docket. 26 Federal Plaza, 290 Broadway is the non-detained docket. The detained docket over at 201 Varick Street has been, conducting business as usual. They are open. They are hearing cases. Cases are going forward. Again, Varick Street, 201 Varick Street is the detained docket. That's for people who are presently in detention. Releasing people now from detention, as Conrad said moments ago, is a little easier than it was before. Before it was almost rubber stamped, denial. I mean, I sent out a request and literally hours later it was denied. Hours later it was denied. Now they are, in my opinion, a little more generous, a little more understanding as a result of the pandemic, and they are releasing people. It's unclear, we've got some cases in Hartford, we've got some cases in Jersey. In New Jersey, they are actually issuing scheduling orders where they basically want the attorney to respond on paper so we don't have to appear in person. Hartford is also postponing their hearings. So I hope that answers your question. If it doesn't and you have any other question, please feel free to ask.
The problem is there are about 1.3 million people waiting for their cases to be heard. There's a big backlog in removal cases, probably due to our ex-president. So there's a big backlog, and if you're waiting to have your case heard, you may have to wait for a long time.
Okay. All right. Does that answer your question, CG?
May I just ask a quick question, if that's okay, David?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely.
And this is just a question out of the left field. We have received calls from Jamaicans that have been here in the United States since they were, a baby, right? We've received a call from a gentleman, he was 2 when he got here, a gentleman that was 7 years old when he arrived here, a gentleman that was 10 years old when he arrived here. He got himself in, themselves in a little, situation, right? Little trouble, yes. And now they're in a detention center in New Jersey or somewhere way or in Pennsylvania, waiting to be deported. Now, these persons would call and and they would be really desperate on the phone. We have no family members in Jamaica. I've been living here since I was 2 years old. I know no one in Jamaica. Just last week, a young lady called and she came here when she was 12 years old and she's now 40 and she'll be sent back to Jamaica in about 3 days or so. And so the questions that they're asking us is there a waiver? Is there anything that could prevent them, since they have been here all their lives, could prevent them, deter the deportation?
So that's actually a very great question. But there's obviously, as with everything law related, there's no clear-cut answer. A lot depends on the conviction, on the seriousness of that conviction. Was it a simple possession or was it, intent to distribute 3 kilos, right? Again, is it a crime involving moral turpitude? Is it an aggravated felony? Some cases, unfortunately, are more difficult than others because it's an extensive criminal record. And all of these are things immigration takes into consideration. Did these arrests happen 20 years ago? Or did these arrests happen consistently over the last 10 years, the most recent being 2 years ago? So one of the things we try to do is, before we give an opinion, we typically like to know the criminal history. And the criminal history, understand, when you've been here for 20 years, that's not the only thing immigration takes into consideration. Have you worked? Have you paid taxes? Again, how many times have you been arrested? What have you been arrested for? Are you a recidivist? How serious is that crime? Again, was it possession? Was it intent to distribute? Was it a conspiracy? Was it a gun charge? So one of the things we try to do at a consultation is determine what, if anything, we can do for these people. And if we believe there's nothing we can do, we will let them know. Okay. And if we believe that we can actually do something, we will let them know. And sometimes cases, obviously, some cases are more difficult than others. When that is the case, we have, again, a former client is on this show right now. I believe we were brutally honest with him from the very beginning. Fortunately, he chose to listen to us, stay with us. And my client was detained for a year, Jamaican citizen, permanent resident of the United States. He was recently released on his birthday, in fact. But it was a lot of fighting. We went up to the Board of Appeals. They denied us. We went up to the Second Circuit. The Second Circuit remanded back to the board. The board remanded back to the judge. There was a lot of variables and moving pieces all at once. But fortunately, we were successful. And as I said, I think one of the things that distinguishes us from other firms is we try to be as honest as we can with these people. We want to give them realistic expectations. So I think as an attorney, that is your responsibility to your client. I'm not going to sell you a dream. I'm going to tell you the truth. Whether it's what you want to hear or not, I'm sorry, but it's the truth.
Don't you love them? Don't you love them, CG?
I felt like Conrad. I felt like Mr. Pollack. I was very long-winded and passionate in my response.
No, you were very profound.
See, one of the things that you mentioned on this particular case, we should look into to see whether that person qualified for DACA because they've been here for so long. That's one of the things that Nelson would look at in terms of looking at the criminal conviction and everything else. But DACA might be a solution there to try to look at.
One more thing also, Nelson, you can answer this. And you have done this so many times. The attorneys at PPID have done this so many times. Sometimes the individual being deported is a citizen.
That's correct.
All right.
Really?
Sometimes they are citizens, and no one checked into it. Their previous attorney did not check into it. They themselves don't know. So that's the reason why a consultation is very necessary with PPID. You may respond, Nelson.
I'll see it. Something I've noticed, and it's unfortunate, but it happens. Sometimes you get advice from an attorney who doesn't necessarily know what he's talking about or necessarily know what he's doing. Now, unless you go and get a second opinion, you've got nothing to base your decision on other than what this one person told you. In my opinion, most attorneys do one or practice in one or two areas of the law. Most attorneys who claim to know 5 or 6 different areas of law, it's, Adam, what is it? Jack of all trades, master of none.
You got it.
And immigration, there's a lot of detail to immigration. Again, it depends on how old were you when you entered. Did your parents naturalize? Were you in the custody of one parent? Were you in the custody of both parents? Did that parent have legal custody? Did you legally enter the United States? If that parent naturalized and had legal custody of you, and your parents were never married and they naturalized before you turned 21, you might be a citizen, right? But now again, it's the blind leading the blind. If your attorney doesn't know what he's doing, doesn't identify these issues, we've gotten, Conrad, and you know this, we've gotten many cases reopened based on ineffective assistance of counsel, where the client was actually eligible for relief, but their prior attorney just never identified the relief they were eligible for. And when an attorney makes a mistake, unfortunately, he's not going to tell you, Alcian, I'm sorry, I was in over my head. I made a mistake. You got to go get a second opinion. And when you get the second opinion, again, I've told clients, you should have gotten a green card 5 years ago. The client looks at me like a deer in headlights and says, what are you talking about? No one told me. Well, your attorney wasn't familiar with the law.
Right.
So, again, I think it's important to always get a second opinion, irrespective of what one attorney tells you. And as Squeeze pointed out, there are just many, you might be eligible for something known as special immigrant juvenile status. If you could demonstrate that reunification with one or both parents is not viable or in your best interest, if you were abused, abandoned, or neglected by one or both of your parents. I mean, again, the problem a lot of people have is they go, in Spanish, there's a saying, cheap becomes very expensive, because now you've created this whole web that you can't seem to get yourself out of. Right now, immigration has a file on you and knows you've previously tried to file 4 or 5 times for a green card and have been unsuccessful. So I believe, again, it's important to have competent representation.
There you go. And hopefully that answered your question,
Yes.
CG. All right, great. And once again, folks, this is the reason why I say just call a firm. At least get yourself a consultation. All right. Cheap is expensive. Good one, Nelson. All right. Give them a call at 844-774-3529. That's 844-774-3529. Alan E.K., the general, the man with the most experience on this panel where immigration is concerned. Can you wrap up the forum, not the forum, the section here that we're on immigration before we get to the questions, of which I see most of them have been answered in the Q&A, and that's good, but go ahead.
Okay, let me just talk about one of my favorite topics, which is that the previous president's administration put in a new naturalization test for applications filed after December 2, 2020. And these questions were designed to make it much harder and much more difficult for people to pass. So the previous test had 100 questions and you had to get 6 right out of 10. The new test has 128 questions, a lot of them very difficult, deliberately, and you had to get 12 right out of 20. You had to get 12 correct. So we can send people copies of the test if you'd like, and the answers also. But basically, this is another thing that the ex-administration did to try to make it difficult for people. In this case, making it difficult for people to become citizens. So this is one of my favorite topics, and we're hoping that the Biden administration will scrap the new citizenship test, which was deliberately designed to make it difficult, and go back to the old citizenship test, which was decent, and much more people were able to pass, and no reason to make it harder for people to become citizens. Thank you, Squeeze.
Thank you so much, Alan. Man, I'm impressed with you, Alan, today. I'm not that I'm not impressed with you in general, but I'm very impressed how you just flew through that, Wonderful. Once again, ladies and gentlemen, the PPID Law Forum, it's time to get to your questions right now. And I just want to say to the market teams, respectively, PPID and Link Up Media, if you can get those questions reposted in the panelist section, so that we don't have to do much scrolling, that would be greatly appreciated. And I want to say once again, thanks to all the attorneys on the panel. Thanks to the Consul General of Jamaica on the panel. Thanks to everyone watching this, listening to this. Now is the time to get your questions in. Share the link that you're watching with others. Tell them to still, I do believe, Zeta, they can still tell their friends to register on the eventbrite.com and get in and ask their questions, right?
Absolutely.
Okay. All right. All right. So let's get to the questions here. All right. And let me do some scrolling as we get all the way back up to, okay. Here's a question from Nadira. Hopefully I pronounced that correctly. If temporary green card is going to be expired at the end of June, is it okay to travel outside of the United States for a month? Let's kick that one over to Yi. Seeing that you're making so much noise over there, man. You may want to unmute.
Yi, you want to unmute?
Yeah.
Generally, I believe I answered this in the Q&A, but generally, yes, you'll be able to travel if your green card is expiring in June. You should be sure to come back before the green card expires. You should also have a passport that remains valid for at least 6 months. We also advise that you consider applying for a replacement green card at this time because your green card is about to expire.
Okay. And Nadira also had another question, follow up right here, I think it is. What if a minor kid filed already, approved by NVC, and waiting for an interview call? Are they holding those applications? And also tell us what NVC is.
Can you give me that question again?
What if a minor kid has filed already? I'm reading this verbatim. Okay, approved by the NVC and waiting for interview call. Are they holding those applications?
They're holding those applications only as the current consulates are not holding routine visa services as a result of COVID. So after those bans are lifted, they should be able to proceed. The National Visa Center is just the clearinghouse that determines whether the documents are all in order so that they can be sent to the individual consulates for interview. And in many countries, those countries are still dealing with COVID at this time.
Amen.
The National Visa Center is located in New Hampshire. I have been there 10 or 15 times, and they're part of the State Department, and they process the cases after the petition is approved by USCIS, whether it's a family-based case or an employment-based case where the beneficiary is going to be getting the visa overseas. The National Visa Center processes the case, does all the paperwork, and then in most cases schedules the appointment for the person to get the visa overseas. But a lot of the paperwork is done by the National Visa Center. As I say, it's part of the State Department, and they do all the heavy lifting after immigration. USCIS approves the petition, and they gather all the documents. They work with getting affidavits of support and everything else, and they schedule the appointment for the alien to go in and get visa at the consulate.
I hate that term, the alien to go in.
Well, that's because I mentioned that because
I could just jump in also. Go ahead, Alan. I'm sorry.
President Biden has decided we're not going to use the term alien anymore.
That's right.
Thank you.
It's going to be called non-citizen. That's a great thing. But it's been for 100 years, it's been alien. He's changing that.
Thanks.
And
Thanks
if I
for
could
that
just
update.
jump in, if I could just jump back in for that question, to respond to that question, one other factor. He didn't indicate whether the person applying for the kid is a citizen or a resident. If the person who's applying for the child under 21 is a citizen, then the child will not be subject to the ban, the immigrant ban that's in place until March 31st this year, like I talked about. If, on the other hand, the parent applying for the kid is a permanent resident, has a green card, then they are subject to the ban.
Okay. Thank you so much for that. 844-774-3529. That's the number for the firm. Once again, I implore you to actually get yourself a one-on-one consultation and then hire them. All right. Let them do the dirty work. They enjoy doing it anyway. All right. 844-PPID-LAW. Quick question here. Is there an immigration pathway for those on student F1 visas? I keep going back to school to maintain status. I have 2 bachelors on the second master's degree. I cannot continue to be paying the huge international student fee. They said that they came to Pollock office in 2017 before. What are my options? Thank you, everyone, for your hard work.
The options.
Well, if they came in 2017 and we couldn't help them, I mean, nothing has gotten better since then.
Okay.
Basically, you're on a student visa, you have degrees, you want to apply through an employment-based category. Number one, you're subject, well, actually, she's in the United States, so she's not subject to the ban. I didn't mention some of the niceties about how the bans apply and who's exempt, but she's not subject to the ban if she's in the US. But more important, she needs an employer. You can't just sponsor yourself in most situations. And in her situation, she's going to need an employer to offer her a job in a particular field of expertise or in a field that she has some experience, and she can apply for a permanent residence for a green card that way. Back in 2017, if she came and spoke to me, that's probably what I told her. That hasn't changed, and that won't be changing. You need an employer to sponsor you. Okay.
And so what is actually needed from the employer?
Employer has to offer employment. She needs somebody in the United States-based employer to offer her a job. So she has a degree, I don't know, she's a teacher. She has a degree in education. She needs to go to a school and find a school that's willing to offer her a position in her field of expertise and undergo the processing with the Department of Labor, potentially, certainly with the Immigration Service. I mean, there are different ways of doing it in an employment-based scenario, but she has to. The first step is to have an employer who's willing to hire her and who's willing to sponsor her for the green card.
I guess what I was asking is, and I presume you guys have done this several times. Do they need your tax returns, the employer's tax returns? Do they need, I'm asking about the specifics.
Please, I'm not an attorney, but I have done this before for an employee, and it's actually not a difficult process at all.
Right.
The first thing that, and I have done it for a former employee, the first thing and the attorney is correct. The first thing that the person needs is to be employed by an employer. And then the employee needs to hire an attorney, right? That is very, very important. Then the attorney will do all the heavy lifting. The process takes a little bit of time before it gets to the employer submitting, all the necessary documents.
Gotcha. All right.
Also, the process typically takes a few years at least. Yeah. So one of the essentials is this person mentioned.
No, I didn't list amenities.
What's going on here?
You
want to mute him?
Why I'm looking, yeah. And this is the building.
Who is?
That's Fred.
It's Fred. It's Fred. You have to mute him.
Yeah.
There you go. One of the first things this person is going to have to do, she mentioned she has a student visa. She's going to need an employment-based visa. Mm-hmm. If she has an employer who's willing to hire her, she's going to probably have to get an H-1B. If she has a degree, professional level worker, most likely she's going to need to apply for an H-1B. There are substantial hurdles to overcome there because H-1Bs are subject to a quota. The employer has to get the application in by a certain period of time. In fact, right now, the registration period is going on right now. There are only 85,000 H-1B visas issued annually. So if you're not, and there's a lottery for selection. So if you're not one of the lucky ones selected in that lottery, you're not going to get an H-1. Maybe if you can't get an H-1, you might need to instead, if you qualify, get a J-1. But these are preliminary steps that this person has to follow before they actually apply for the green card. Or they could just say, okay, I'm going to go back to my country. You, Mr. Employer, you please put in my case, submit my papers to the Immigration Service, get my case going. It's going to take a couple of years. I'm going to go back to my country and wait until it's done, and I'll come back when the green card is ready. That's another option, although not a lot of companies are going to want to do that, because why are they going to sponsor someone for 2 years if they're not working for them?
Gotcha.
You know, so there obviously there's a lot to it. So, you know, this is something. This is not like putting in an I-130 visa petition for your brother and waiting 15 years and then he gets his green card. It's a lot more involved.
Thank you. Once again, folks, the number for the firm is
I don't know if I'm mute or
okay.
can't tell anymore.
Fred there. All right. All right. Let's go to a question here. Let's go to Prudence. You wanted to ask a question. I just brought you in. You still have your question, Prudence. I know you notice that you just put up your hand. If you want to, you can jump in right now. If not, we'll move to another question. Going once, Prudence Williams. All right, no problem. All right, so we'll disable that. All right, can someone change his status from a G4 non-immigrant visa to a student visa? Let's go to
Alan. He's muted.
Alan.
I muted him.
Okay, yes, it's possible, but it's a little complicated because the consulate has to go clarify. I agree with this, and you have to get a waiver of the diplomatic status. So it's not as simple as changing from a visitor to a student. You've got to go through the consulate, and they've got to say they have no objection. So the answer is yes, it's possible, but it's a little more complicated.
Okay, all right. Once again, folks, the number is 844-774-3529. That's 844-774-3529. Someone here is saying, hello, thanks for offering this free information panel. My question is, what are the pathways to apply for green card after 4 years schooling in the U.S. as a minor immigrant? I believe you pretty much have actually touched on that, Conrad. All right, I think that's the same answer. All right. Donnie posted this question. Okay, let's see. Let's go here. Hold on. Scrolling here, guys. Scrolling here. All right. I think that's about it for the questions, unless I am missing. I tried looking into the EB2 visa. I think it's more for certain professions. I don't know if that's a statement or a question. Anyone want to expand on that?
EB2 is for people who, second employment-based category is for people who have master's degrees or people who have exceptional ability. Most of these people will need a labor certification called PERM. Some of them who are outstanding may not have to go through the Labor Department. But in any event, most of the EB2 people need an employer to file. Occasionally, if you can do a national interest waiver, you can do it without an employer.
Okay. All right. Here's another question. A pleasant evening to everyone. Thank you so much for this informational session. I have two questions. I've been an LPR since 2009, a licensed practical nurse since 2010. I had a criminal case that was sealed with OOP that ended April 2020. Am I now eligible to file for U.S. citizenship? What is your consultation fee? David Squeezanke, I see you're progressive and progressive, blah, 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 blah. Just bypass that. All right. Andrea, you want to take this one? You may want to unmute.
Muted.
Yes. Yes, you should be able to apply for citizenship. Depending on how you got your green card, you could have applied 3 years after you obtain your green card or 5 years. Regarding the criminal arrest, we would ask to look at all the records and see exactly what happened, what the charges were, and then let you know if it is wise to apply now or if you should wait. There's usually a requirement for good moral character when you apply for citizenship. So we might ask, they usually look 5 years back. Sometimes it's fair game to look at all your criminal history from before, but usually we can argue that 5 years of good moral character should allow you to obtain your citizenship. So it depends. If it wasn't a major crime, then you should be fine.
Okay.
Or a major arrest.
Great.
You know, I just like to add, if you were convicted of a crime involving moral turpitude within the first 5 years of admission, or the first 5 years of getting your green card, and the maximum potential penalty for that is a year or more, you may be removable. So,
Mr.
you know,
Mr.
before
Madrid,
you
what the
apply for
heck,
citizenship, you should definitely consult with an attorney.
Mr. Madrid, what the heck does moral turpitude mean?
Moral turpitude for immigration purposes is a conviction for a crime that is inherently vile. And again, as I said, if that conviction happened within the first 5 years of getting your green card or being admitted to the United States, you may be removable. You know, a lot of people are placed into removal proceedings either when they take a trip abroad and are returning to the United States, or when they file for citizenship. So just be very careful and see a lawyer if you were convicted of any type of criminal offense.
Okay. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I think that's about it for our questions here. I'd like to find out if any of the other attorneys in the other areas who actually stayed on the panel and did not vacate the forum has anything to say. Jacob, Fred, anyone else has anything to say? And I'm sorry we didn't give you enough of the time to actually speak. Jacob, you want to go first?
I have nothing to add, but I have to tell you, I'm very impressed with all the vast knowledge of Conrad and Nelson and the rest of the immigration team. I learned a lot.
Well, why don't we just remind everybody out there, maybe they're just signing on, Jacob, what you are. We know what you are, but what you do.
I'm not supposed to say that on the air.
What do you do?
And on a high note. Thank you. It's a good idea, Adam. Thank you. Again, I specialize in helping immigrants obtain unpaid wages. So as I stated earlier, unfortunately, a lot of immigrants are taken advantage of by their employers, and my firm with Conrad helps them recover their unpaid wages.
Okay. All right. And
and by the way, you know, you don't need to have a green card to go after to sue an employer who's not paying you what you're supposed to be paid. Yes, it's illegal to work illegally, but that, again, that doesn't let the employer off the hook. And a lot of employers try to take advantage of those laws because they know that if the worker doesn't have his green card and he says something, he causes trouble for the employer, they'll fire him.
Yeah.
Right. But that you don't have to take that. You know, just because you're illegally here doesn't mean that's carte blanche for an employer or employers to take advantage of you.
Yes,
you do have rights, and that's where Jacob comes in.
Same thing for the personal injury. People think, you know, they get a lot of immigrants, even out of status immigrants, are, you know, work just busting their butt on those construction sites, you know, day in and day out, because that's the only job, you know, that they can get. You know, it's a outside work. Nobody's really checking IDs and things like that, and they get hurt, you know, and they always trust me. When you're low in the totem pole like that, who do you think is literally in the trenches, or who do you think's climbing up? Hey, SN, what's his name up there? You know, it's almost like you're expendable, which is disgusting thought as it is. But you become a victim twice, because not only are you a victim because, you know, you're hurt in that accident, but your employer will screw you over because they think, well, what is he going to do about it, or what is she going to do about it? You have rights, ladies and gentlemen. Doesn't matter who you are. If you're a human being in New York and you're hurt, you're entitled to money. If you're a human being working in New York and you're getting screwed out of your money from your job, you're entitled to your wages. If you need help with immigration, it doesn't matter if you're out of status. You know, that's why we're here, and that's what we're, you know, that's the whole point of this forum, to let you know exactly who we are, what we do, how we do it, and it's a safe place. You know, just give us a call. You got nothing to lose, everything to gain.
here's a question for you, Consul General. All right. Donnie asked this question. Yes, I have a question. The young lady from the consulate mentioned that they were trying to help individuals regarding their circumstances. When I was detained in New Jersey, a consulate came to visit and tried to persuade us to give up. She said, sign out. What was the motive or intention? Do they get extra compensation? She kind of diminished our hopes.
No. So I would be curious to know what consulate visited that person. So I was appointed as the Consul General on July 31st of 2019. So I'm approaching my second year. We have not sent anyone out since I've been the Consul General to any detention centers. Actually, I myself has visited one prison in Danbury, Connecticut, and of course, then shortly after that, COVID. We're not in the business, believe it or not, for obvious reasons, to encourage anyone to give up. We actually, and that's why I posed the question to the attorneys. How, do we go about?
And that's one of the reasons why you're here.
Yeah. So I'm not sure. It doesn't sound like well, it couldn't have been a Consul General, because you know what I mean. Right. So I would, that person, if that person could DM me, or send me a message on Facebook, then we could talk off air.
What's your Instagram and your Facebook?
My Instagram is Lady Alcyon, so it's Lady and then my first name. Or they could search for me by plug it in CG Alcyon Wilson, and my Facebook page is CG for Consul General Alcyon Wilson.
Okay. If the
and if I could, David, I'm sorry, if I could just jump in for a second. I have heard situations where ICE, will go up to someone who's detained and said, I don't care who your lawyer is, there's nothing they can do for you, you need to go home. Or they basically ask them to sign something. The person doesn't know what they're signing, and it's a removal order. I'm not saying that was necessarily the case here, but I have heard those stories in the past, and that also deflates someone, because you have ICE coming to you in a very vulnerable situation or at a very vulnerable time and telling you, give it up and just go home. You've been detained. Some of these people have not been detained for extensive or prolonged periods of time. They may have been arrested, been released, pled guilty, and gone home, and it's all done. Now they're in an immigration detention center where they've been incarcerated for a year, 8 months. It's real. Yeah. This is real. Immigration detention centers are not country clubs. They are detention facilities for regular criminals, and immigration happens to lease space from them.
Wow.
Yeah, and Squeeze, may I just put this out there that, I myself personally, and this is not the Consul General speaking, this is simply Alcyon Roach Wilson speaking. I have grave concern for as a national or a person, so anyone that is currently in the crosshair of being deported back to the Caribbean or anywhere for that matter, when that person have been living here in the United States or her life or his life, right? The question is, when you get deported and you've left Jamaica, you left Jamaica when you were 2 years old, 3 years old. I'm speaking from phone calls that I've received from persons in the detention center. What do you go back to? You have no family members there, so now, what is going to happen to you? I can't think, I just can't help but think of the mental stress that is going to be brought on to that individual. And if you have no family members to give you a roof over your head, or, until you get yourself sorted out, tell me what's going to happen to you when you get off that plane and you have no one. Absolutely. So I, just speaking from, a personal, not the Consul General, I really am concerned about these cases. So we have not gone out to any detention centers at all, anywhere within the 33 states that we're responsible for, to encourage anyone to give up and just go home.
Gotcha. And I guess that burden is now on the country that they send the person back to.
Yeah.
All right. Once again, folks. Okay. Yeah, Alan, you've got a question here, but let me just throw this in. Maybe you can answer this while you're responding. Can a child be aged out because of the ban that imposed on residents filing for a spouse and a child? That's from Sylvia on Facebook. And the answer is yes. That was a quick one. All right.
I'm going to say to the Consul General that we'll be happy to continue our conversation with her. We can schedule another Zoom session where she can have people from the consulate and we all can be on our side, but we can continue, happy to continue our conversation with you and answer any and all of your questions. We can set up another Zoom session or whenever you want, we're available.
Okay.
Fantastic. Thank you.
And thanks
would love that actually.
Great. And thanks to Yi for answering the question where one asked if anyone has a temporary green card and he or she got caught for shoplifting where the person wasn't guilty at all and the case got dismissed from the court, will it be a problem during applying for extend of green card? Yi, you want to verbally give that answer?
Well, generally, if it's a dismissed case, it shouldn't be an issue, but there's a lot of legal complications in there as far as when the case was dismissed. For example, certain individuals get dismissals after first getting probations, after first entering a program in which they plead guilty, so those could be issues as well. But you really have to look at the disposition. If they're not guilty, never pled guilty, and the case got dismissed, then it's not an issue.
Okay.
But they can still ask you about it.
Of course.
You know, you still need to bring the certificate of disposition, you know, the original with you to the interview, and they can't ask you what happened. You know, it's because it was dismissed. It doesn't mean, you know, they're not going to ask you anything about it. They can still ask you about it.
All right. With that said, we are just about at the end of the first of its kind on Zoom. Okay, the PPID Law Forum for the Masses. And once again, we must remind you that it's brought to you by Pollock, Isaac, and the Seco. Prior results do not guarantee similar outcome. Do remember to call the firm at 844-774-3529. That's 844-774-3529. I am sure we will do this again. Want to extend my gratitude and thanks to the Consul General of Jamaica for actually staying the full show, the entire duration of the show. I am sure that everyone here is very impressed. And Consul General, let me say this, and I disclaim this. This is coming from me. I'm quite sure the attorneys agree. You can reach out to myself or any of the attorneys at any time. I know they really do appreciate you. They've actually been texting me saying, oh, she's really cool. She's really good at what it is. And we do appreciate the fact that you advocate for the Jamaican nationals. And so far you've been doing a tremendous work. I think you should actually expand quickly on your initiative, your recent initiative, and how it's been going. If you can take 3 minutes and do that, we would really appreciate it.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you for giving me the forum to briefly speak about this initiative that is extremely dear to my heart. So real quickly, and I could take days, but of course, the schools are still currently closed in Jamaica. You know, and all our students now have to participate in the remote learning process. What we have been seeing though in Jamaica is there are well over 70,000 students that, you know, their parent cannot afford to purchase a device that will enable them to participate in the online learning process. And so these students are just home, not doing anything at all. I am afraid, personally, again, not even speaking as the Consul General, I am afraid of what's going to happen in 10 years with these students that are home not doing anything, right? And so as a result of that, we were approached by the Minister of Foreign Affairs and Foreign Trade, Minister Kamina Johnson-Smith, to ask if there's anything that we could do to assist with the One Device per Child initiative. And so back in November 19th, to be exact, at the consulate, we launched the Consul General of Jamaica, New York tablet laptop initiative. How's that going so far? The goal is to raise enough funds to purchase 70,000 tablets and 30,000 laptops. The laptops are for the university students.
How much have you raised?
We have raised, yeah, we have raised so far, just this morning, actually, I ran the balance sheet, and we have raised so far $172,000. And we just received 2 pledges, one for $31,000 from TD Bank and another one from a former client of mine in Rhode Island. I want to take this opportunity though to thank the persons that have been helping. We have an agreement in place with Best Buy where, using the specs that we've received from the Ministry of Education, 1 tablet Best Buy will allow us to purchase for 6 months, 1 tablet at $100, cost of $100. And so I implore anyone that can find it within their heart to participate so that we have no child that will be left behind. If you can't give $100 to purchase 1 tablet, do $50, right? And then we'll figure out how to get to acquire the additional $50. But thank you so much. You have been really great in helping us, Squeeze, and I can't tell you how much we appreciate you.
And we still haven't turned over our part to you as yet. That's a surprise, and we'll talk more about that. You know it's coming. All right.
Awesome, yes.
All right. And I do appreciate you coming on the different platforms and speaking and helping out Jamaica. And once again, by proxy, my colleagues here definitely helped where that is concerned, and definitely they will continue doing it. Thank you so much for being with us, Suji.
Thank you so much. And thank everyone for having me.
Okay, great.
And we'll be in touch.
Definitely.
Yes.
Any additional words from the attorneys here before we go? Gentlemen, ladies?
Well, considering we had initially planned for an hour to talk about this, and now we've passed the 2-hour mark.
Yes.
You know, I think some of the guys on our staff, they need to stop talking so much. You know.
All right.
It's been great.
No, it's hard to get in. It's hard to get in a word during the radio show. So why not, right? Speak a little more than I generally have the opportunity to.
Well, it's been a great experience, and as you've been saying, Squeeze, this is only the first time. We'll be doing this on a more frequent basis. I think it's a great way for us to give back to the community, and I think a lot of the people most of the people, hopefully all of the people out there, would say that we've provided a lot of valuable information that isn't readily available, and it's our pleasure to do so.
In my opinion, it's one of our better shows, and they've all been very good. So
who won the iPad?
We're about to find that out now.
Yes.
We're about to find that out right now. Okay. Let's turn it over to our marketing coordinator for the firm PPID, Paulo Pollock, Isaac, and Seco. Zaina, how are you? Let's see if you can swim with the sharks here. Literally.
Well, I don't have a lot of practice like you guys. Gonna get take me some time. So are we announcing the winner?
Yes, we are.
Okay, so we just did the draw, and the winner is Maimuna Fall.
Okay.
I just asked the person if she is located in the US, and she said yes. Checking if she's still attending. Yes, she is.
Okay, can we bring? Have you brought her up? Yeah. What's her name?
Maimuna.
Okay. Yeah. Here we go. Let's bring her in. Okay. Allow her to talk. She's got to talk though. All right.
Yeah.
Maimuna.
Unmute yourself.
Hello. How are you?
I'm good.
Okay.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Yes. Thank you so much.
On winning the iPad. If you don't mind. If you don't.
That's great. I really needed that. I do not expect greater than this.
Okay. How did you hear about the forum?
Yeah, I heard about it from an online thing. I saw so many like the weekly news. I just hit it once and then I saw in my email. So I was following you guys every week through your newsletters and all sorts of stuff. So last week I see this panel which is free. So okay, let me go and hear about those guys. They looks interesting.
I appreciate you.
Well,
Great. Where are you from originally, if you don't mind me asking?
I'm from West Africa, Gambia. The Gambia is a small country from West Africa.
Okay. And what do you think of what do you think of what it is that these attorneys are doing at PPID? And talk the truth.
I think it's a great job. That's why I'm following you guys. I'm not a social media person, but you guys, I always like try to get interactive information about immigration stuff. So I'll follow you guys. Yeah.
Okay, thanks. And if you can spread,
a great job.
And if you can spread it within your community, we would really appreciate it. You know, as people listening to our show, you know, on a daily basis, we really would appreciate that.
You can email all your friends on your iPad.
Okay, for sure.
About our show.
My daughter was asking for an iPad this week. So anyway, I could believe that.
What state are you in? Final question. What state are you in?
New Jersey.
Oh, you're New Jersey.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
One of the states that I'm responsible for.
Oh, yeah, really?
Yeah.
And I like you. I like your look anyways.
Oh, thank you.
Elsie has always been stunning.
Yeah, I like you guys. It was so interesting, and I got a lot about immigration, so all the pathways for all the points. It was so amazing anyway.
All right. Well, the key is that you now have a full service law firm that can serve you in so many different capacities. So once again, thank you so much. Spread the word within your community. Got a bunch of good looking ladies. I don't know about all the guys if they're good looking. I know I am, you know, but you know, just spread the word for us. All right. Appreciate it.
Sure.
All right. Thanks again and congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you.
Squeeze?
Yes.
From her, I just mentioning that she's from West Africa, from Gambia, actually just gave me an idea. If you guys are gonna have another forum, maybe I'm very good friends with several of the consul generals here in New York. So the consul general from South Africa is we're extremely good friends.
Okay.
So maybe you would like to invite him to participate as well.
Absolutely.
Well, we can.
Absolutely.
We can do that. We do it for a lot of different consulates, and just have them get in touch with us, and we can either have individual Zoom lectures for the consulate or a bunch of consulates all together. We're happy to do that.
Okay, fantastic.
Great job, team. I really appreciate all of this. And lest we forget, I want to say thanks to Tracy Spence and Alyssa Williams on the Link Up Media side, handling the technical back end. We want to say thanks to you, Zaina. You hit the ground running. All right. The parachute's a little bit open, but you don't worry about it. We got you back, all right?
Wait, did you tell Alan he's got to deliver the iPad?
Yeah. Did you know that, Alan? Okay, so Zaina,
Maimuna will get in touch with you. I'm gonna text you now, and you send me your details and contact info so we can send you the iPad. Okay?
Absolutely. And for everyone that's still on, if you DM me, as I promised, every one of you will get one of our products by one of our companies that Link Up Media own, which is BioLife. Plus, just pick a product and we'll give it to you. Just go online at BioLife Now, that store. And Tracy Spence and Alyssa will handle that. DM me on Instagram, David Squeeze Anarchy. All right. And don't forget, speaking of Instagram, to follow the case handler. He will kill me if I don't mention that. Okay. The case handler, which handles, of course, your accident cases. Follow the firm, PPID also. And with that said, we say goodbye to you. Thank you so much.
And have a good weekend.
Have yourself a phenomenal weekend. Thank you, CG. Thank you, attorneys.
Quite welcome.
Thank
you so
you.
much for having me. Bye-bye.